The original Spyro trilogy is quite possibly the single greatest collection of games on the PlayStation. Barring a few infamous minigames, the Spyro trilogy is an all-killer, no-filler triumvirate of gems worth playing to completion. Everything from the easy-to-pick-up-and-play game design, the cathartic levels, to the fantasy rock soundtracks are pure bliss. However, if you were a PlayStation gamer in Japan during the late 90s, you'd probably be singing a different tune. Spyro 1's Japanese port is somewhat infamous within the Spyro fandom. For whatever reason, the game was changed quite a bit in an attempt to appeal to Japanese audiences, but instead, it completely killed Spyro's hopes of making it big in Japan right from the get-go. So much so that Spyro 3 never got a Japanese release until the Reignited trilogy in 2018. So let me, a Spyro trilogy faithful, take a painful dive into this botched version of a beloved game, and see if it really deserves the hate. So, I thought I should just get this out of the way. I don't know any Japanese. This did cause me some trouble in navigating the menus initially, but I eventually got the pattern down. Not like it matters, since I've played Spyro 1's NTSC version and am fully aware of how utterly puerile its story is. Our antagonist, Gnasty Gnorc, turns all of the dragons into crystals save for Spyro because he magically overheard a TV interview in which one of the elder dragons calls the dude ugly. Seriously? I know this is a quote-unquote kids game, as some people say, but that's shallow even by early 3D platformer standards. Even though I can't understand a lick of Japanese, I do have a bone to pick about Spyro's voice in this. In the original version, Spyro was voiced by Carlos Alazraqui, with a somewhat nasally and bratty voice.
I certainly wouldn't want to spend the rest of my Dragon Days butting heads with Gnasty Gnorc and his weird minions.
While there's no doubt Tom Kenny's a better fit for Spyro, in this game, Spyro sounds like a girl. I'm not even trying to be insulting here. He simply sounds like a little girl in this game, and it just sounds like crap. Upon starting the game, we are greeted to this version's damning malady: the altered camera view. I mean, just why? The original camera view worked perfectly fine and was actually fairly advanced for its time. This, on the other hand, is completely regressive, utterly superfluous, and makes things far more clunky than they need to be. The camera even gets caught on geometry from time to time, for Christ's sake. That's not even mentioning the fact that the overall gameplay has been slowed. Spyro runs slower in this version for some reason. All these changes are completely worthless and just ruin the game in the long term. If I'm not mistaken, I've said this about a lot of bad games on my review series before, but yeah, I got a mild headache from playing this. I don't know what it is, but I can almost feel physical pain whenever I play slow, janky crap like this. It's not the worst I've seen on the PS1, oh no, but this is such a downgrade from the Spyro us Americans and Europeans got. At least I can say that the soundtrack is largely unchanged. It's the same bundle of 70s keyboard prog-tended majesty that you all know and love, so at the very least, the game is still a treat audio-wise, minus Spyro's voice, of course. One thing that caught my attention were these signs scattered about the levels. Flaming them will give you helpful tips on how to play the game. Granted, most of the time I activated them was by sheer accident, and it really caught me off guard the first time I saw it happen. I will give this edition credit though, it's at least useful to those who speak Japanese. In short, Spyro 1's Japanese port is kind of a mess to say the least. I was genuinely frustrated while playing it. It's astounding how much they botched this version up. They managed to take one of the best PS1 games of all time and turn it into an arduous chore. It's no surprise Spyro failed in Japan given the product they got. In fact, I am going to say something that might be a bit controversial. I would rather play Enter the Dragonfly than Spyro 1 Japan. I know Enter the Dragonfly is also a bit of a mess, but at least its core gameplay functions properly, even if the rest of the game is an unfinished mess. In spite of Spyro 1's poor reception in Japan, the game's sequel would surprisingly see a Japanese release. Thankfully, this one's much better. While it maintains the slower movement speed of its predecessor, we are now given the ability to revert back to the original camera. And my god, this makes all of the difference in the world. Having a proper functional camera simply makes the game much easier to play. I'm no longer making leaps of faith or getting the camera stuck on geometry. Granted, it's not perfect. The slow movement makes completing levels a bit longer, and they managed to fuck up the swimming controls too. But overall, Spyro 2's Japanese port is a great qualitative leap from the botched version of Spyro 1. I actually had some fun playing this version in spite of the language barrier. But as for Spyro 1, please stay away from its Japanese version unless you really hate yourself and want to suffer.